All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Outside the Studio. My name is Tessa Tovar. I am your host. You might see a little kitty tail in the background. That is Ormiga. She likes to accompany me on podcasts, yoga classes, and anytime I am in the kitchen, she is my little kitchen manager. Today I have a really exciting guest to share with you. Her name is Erica Giselle Penner. She is a powerhouse of a woman who has recently built a career in life coaching. The thing that I think is really cool about Erica's approach to life coaching is it's very heart centered, which I don't know if anyone out there listening has experienced life coaching, but I think oftentimes, and Erica and I kind of go into this, there's more of like a strategy or very masculine approach to life coaching. And I'm excited for you to hear how Erica works with life coaching. So she focuses on helping women rise to their fullest potential in a world where, as she would say, we should all over ourselves, often to our detriment, or maybe we talk ourselves out of the greatness that we were born to achieve. So she's got a unique perspective. She was born in Cairo. She was raised in the UK. She recently settled here in the Pacific Northwest, and that's been her home for the past 9 years. And she began her life coaching career in 2019. So in this episode, we talk about her business. It's called Helping Women Rise. You learn all about what life coaching is, and that broader umbrella term, and the different approaches to life coaching. So what it is and why it's important and how it can be applicable to your life if it's something that you're curious about looking into. Also, Erica shares some of her daily rituals that I think are so salient and just helpful if you're looking for something to kind of add bookends to your day to help your day feel a little bit more structured, calm, something to help you through the chaos of these times. And the thing she's given us a couple of freebies. So this one in particular, it's called her Heart Talk Project, and I believe it was inspired by a book of poetry written by Cleo Wade, which if you're curious about checking that out, I have a link in the show notes. So this particular Heart Talk project, what she's doing is she's giving away 15 free life coaching sessions beginning April 5th, which is today, through the 25th. So there's a little application link there. If life coaching is something you want to check out and you like what Erica has to say, you can apply to get a free session with her. No strings attached, no money required. And then there is a little free workbook Erica shares about getting in alignment. So we talk a little bit throughout the podcast about a few of her programs, and one of them is to see if you're living your life in alignment with, your desires, your goals, or if you're kind of going through things, motions, actions unconsciously. It's a little fun freebie there, also including a daily mantra service link. So all kinds of fun, good stuff to check out in this episode. Be sure to look for those links in the show notes. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did with Erica Giselle Penner. All right, so here we are outside the studio, another episode, and I'm really excited to have on the show Erica Giselle. She is a really incredible woman who is doing incredible things, and I'm excited to have her tell us about what exactly she's doing. A few little teasers that we'll dive into are her business, Helping Women Rise. And I believe, my understanding of it, Erica, is that it's kind of like a life coaching platform, but you have very specific programs within that platform. And you're also starting a particular project called the Heart Talk Project, which was inspired by a book of poetry by Cleo Wade. And then other things I want to cover with you are like your yoga practice, because I know you're a fellow yoga teacher, daily rituals, words of wisdom, all that good, juicy stuff that keeps us motivated and inspired as fellow human beings on this wild planet.
Yes.
Crazy past couple of years. So I think I'd like to start off with helping women rise. Um, can you talk me through that a little bit? Like its inception, what gave you the idea, what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so excited to be here today chatting with you, and I'm excited for the juicy topics that we're going to cover. So, happy to dive in on helping women rise. That is the sort of tagline or slogan on my website. I really think it captures the work that I do with women. I've always had this pull toward women's empowerment and the collective ripple effects that can have when I can help either one-on-one or through a group coaching program to elevate women, whether it's in their life, their career, their business. And when we get women together that are all tapped into that, the ripple effects, as I mentioned, are just incredible. And so I like to think that little by little, it's actually making a big impact on the world if everybody is going about tapped into their own purpose, their own values, and living that out and creating alignment in that. It's just magical. So I love being a part of that. And the Helping Women Rise, I believe there's a book specifically on that, and it's more geared toward the corporate career environment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the idea behind it is really about that, what it is that we need to tap in and create that alignment that I mentioned. And it means something different for each woman. It could mean stepping into her own identity as a mom. It could be starting her own business. It could be really anything. And so that's why I love this work. It's so unique, and each person needs something different on their own journey. And so that's what I help women do.
So is it like a an effort to help women kind of clarify what their intention or goal is, like whether it's in the corporate environment, hey, I have this specific path that I want to follow or this particular role I want to fill, or outside of the corporate work world, I want to create this passion project or I want to be this particular person or I want to feel this particular way. Is it helping them identify what that thing is?
Yeah, and typically a lot of the women that I work with, they already know, but they kind of can shrink back or maybe hold themselves back from this big idea, and they think, "Oh, who am I to do this? Who am I to want this? I already have X, Y, and Z. Why would I want more? Why would I want something different?" So throughout a coaching conversation, I find that if you provide the right space of support and comfort and the right questions, the dream or vision emerges, and we can really build off of that and work with how can we make this happen, because we have this kind of dream in the back of our minds, and we just kind of say, oh no, that's not right now.
Mhm.
So it is identifying sort of the how to go about doing it. But typically, when I work with folks, they kind of already have that knowing.
Mm.
And it's just kind of pulling it back and pulling around the layers and understanding, okay, why is this important to you? What about that calls to you? And once that gets a lot of clarity, then the rest just really follows naturally.
Yeah, for sure. And I imagine that there's like a particular process you would follow to extrapolate that, and then once you have that idea or once you have that goal in mind, then is there a particular process you follow? Is it very bio individual based on the person?
It is. It's both and. So there is a process throughout a coaching engagement, and it's probably a good point to talk a little bit about the coaching industry because there's a few different ideas out there. It's actually quite a rogue industry. So anybody can call themselves a coach. You don't need any formal training or credentialing. And so that's beautiful in a lot of ways, but it can also create some negative things.
Yeah.
And so, a little bit of my background, I am certified and credentialed through the ICF. It's the International Coaching Federation. And so, they are considered the gold standard or the only governing body in coaching. And so, you have to jump through a few hoops to be able to say that you're a certified credential coach. And so that's one piece. There's the credentialing piece, and then the other piece is just the perception of what coaching is to the world.
Mm.
And sometimes it's thought of being handed a strategy when you provide a problem. You say, hey, my name's Erica, I'm stuck in my career. What's the toolkit that I need to go get unstuck? And that does have a lot of value in more of a consulting relationship, but coaching is really more about how do we both get on the same page? How are we a collaborative partnership to unpack why there is a sense of stuckness? What do you want to do about it? How do you want to move forward? And so that's where what we call the coaching container comes into place. So if I am speaking with you, Tessa, and I say, if I create the conditions for a safe, judgment free environment, that allows you to open up in ways with me as your coach instead of maybe a friend or family member. They have maybe a particular opinion or perspective about what they would do if they were in your situation. And my job is really to pull out from you as a creative, resourceful human, what you think next best steps are and what you think you need to get unstuck. And so the process is really, it's quite simple. It's creating that container. It's pulling apart the exploration part and then creating the alignment. So what actions need to take place? What kinds of exercises or tools do you need to really integrate the knowledge that was pulled out in the exploration? And so that's a very broad coaching process. And then I have various tools and programs that, depending on what the client needs on that day or in that part of their journey, that I dive into. So I have a couple different programs that that I use depending on what that person needs.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you for defining coaching. I oftentimes, and I wonder if this is specific to the realm of life coaching, because there's so many different styles of coaching, financial coaching or health
Mhm.
coaching. Or so when you say ICF certified coaching, this gold standard conglomerate, it industry wide coaching, or is it specific to life coaching?
Yeah, it's industry wide, the and going back to the nuances of the industry. So you can be a certified health and wellness coach through the ICF, or you could be an executive coach through the ICF, and you have the same kind of hoops to jump through, but
Mhm.
the nuances and the toolkits that you employ are specific to that kind of niche. And so if you have, for example, a background in nutrition, you have this whole toolkit that you can tap into, that adds to your value as a coach that isn't necessarily within what the ICF would call coaching.
Got it. Okay, cool. That's so helpful. I think it's such a it's kind of like I feel like life coaching has become so popularized recently, and
Mhm.
there's so much mystery around what it actually is. I feel like we think, oh, there's this person who's going to help me get my life in order, and who's going to help me become a TV star or write that best-selling novel or lose that last 30 pounds or whatever it is. But um yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of mystery around like the process of that. How do you find a coach? What does that even mean to have a coach? And how
It's
do you use it?
it's so true. And to be frank, I was one of those people 2 years ago. If somebody had said life coach, I would have been like, what even is that? Like, is it just someone who tells you how awesome you are and cheerleads you? Is it someone who wasn't quite academically inclined to become a therapist. And it wasn't until I experienced it and I experienced true coaching. So, not that strategy handout that I mentioned earlier, but more that explorative, co created relationship that I was like, I have got to get my hands on this because this is so powerful.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I got into coaching in the first place. But you're right, there's still that mystery or maybe the rogue coach that comes along and maybe isn't quite as helpful or doesn't quite have the right vibe that you're hoping for. And so getting clear on what it is that you need is definitely the first step. And then finding a coach that aligns with you because there's so many out there and they all have a different approach. And it's such an intimate relationship that you want that comfort of knowing, hey, this person I really respect and vibe with them, and I appreciate their approach and um, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
It sounds similar to, as I think about working with a therapist, oftentimes it takes me, there's a lot of trial and error, and just like any relationship, sometimes it's not the right fit. So I imagine that that is very similar.
Yeah, it's so true. And there's um, a therapist coach comparison that also happens quite frequently, and I think that therapy as a modality is so important and so powerful, and it tends to be a little more diagnostic in nature and more backward thinking, so processing through the past,
Mm.
whereas coaching is more about present and future thinking. um, that doesn't mean that emotions don't come up though, right? Like feelings are always part of our human experience, and no matter how you explore them, it's still part of the conversation. So
Yeah.
that's another little nuance between therapy and coaching.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
As you were speaking about that, the word manifestation keeps popping up, just recently, like in the work that I do, in the people that I come into contact with. I wonder what your thoughts are on, this idea of manifesting something in your life. Do you encounter that? Do you work with that idea? What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. And I don't know if you've heard of it's this gal down in Southern Oregon who sends out a mantra email every morning. It's called I Am Mantra. It's a lovely little positive email that you get, and it's a different one every day. And she talks a lot about manifesting. I will say that, so I grew up with, my mom is very into the spiritual and creativity and tapping into kind of the universe in that way. And my dad is very analytical, logical, cerebral. And so I have both of those sides as part of me. And so when I hear a word like manifesting, part of me is like, ooh, I don't know about that. But then the other part of me sees it happen so much that I'm like, okay, we gotta take stock here and see what's going on. I think it's one of the really powerful tools of coaching is thinking about your future and visioning it and speaking about, what are you going to see and hear and do in your perfect day in 5 years from now in your perfect career. And just the act of doing that and giving voice to those things, I think, is a really big part of helping to manifest that. And I've had many experiences where I'll be thinking about something and give it attention and intentionality, and then it just pops up in my life
Mhm.
in the next few days or few weeks where it was just right. Um, and my word of the year, so I pick a word each year to focus on, and this year in 2021 it's trust. And so thinking about how that plays into manifesting and trusting the timing of things and all of that kind of thing it's new for me, it's newer for me, but I think um, there's a lot of good stuff in there. So yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are as well on the whole manifesting ideology.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I have a similar reaction as you do. A part of me, my analytical side goes, I don't know. That sounds a little hocus pocus, like the idea of The Secret. Have you read that book, or is it a book or a movie? I've seen a movie that's called The Secret, but I think it's also a book.
Mhm.
Anyways, I feel like it's this idea that, oh, I want a bike for Christmas. I'm just going to think about it, um and then I'll get a bike for Christmas, which I don't believe that that's what The Secret is trying to teach or tout. But I think that when we don't take the time to dig into what we mean by manifesting, that's how it can appear. And so my thought process around it is that, yes, I have to, like what you're talking about, Erica, I have to have clarity around my goal to be able to speak it out loud and to be able to get support with it, to even be able to take a step towards it. And it's not just having the goal or the idea that brings it into fruition. It's having that clarity, and then maybe you work it backwards and see, okay, well, if I want to get here, what would be the next step right underneath that, and then underneath that and underneath that. So you could kind of work it backwards. Like a good practice is, okay, I want to make $100,000 a year. Okay, well, how much money do you need to make per month? Okay, well, how many hours a week do you need to work um, to make that dollar amount per month? And what's your salary per hour, or what are you paying yourself per hour? So, and that way, manifestation becomes a very practical exercise in understanding the exact steps that you need to take to get to that. Maybe it's a lofty goal in your mind, or maybe it feels far fetched, but I don't think anything that you can dream, and this is how things get created, any idea or seed of thought that you can think of can become reality if you're willing to take the time to figure out how to make it work. But if you're telling yourself that's not going to work and it's not attainable, then it's not, and it just won't work.
Absolutely.
So that's what I think about manifestation.
Yes. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree with you more. And it reminds me of so I practice out inside out coaching probably 80% of the time, and then outside in coaching 20% of the time. And 90 to 99% of our entire experience is unconscious. We are just doing the behaviors and doing the things that serve whatever goal we have, and it's pretty unconscious.
Mm.
And then we have the conscious side of ourselves where we're like, okay, I want to make $100,000 this year, and this is why, et cetera, et cetera. And in order to make that happen, you have to follow the inputs. You have to follow the unconscious and align it with what you want to be conscious. So if you want to make 100K, but the inputs that you're putting are actively ignoring, um, reaching out to prospective clients or whatever it is that you need to do on the input side, then the output is not going to ever align. And so it's bridging that gap and making sure that both the inputs and the outputs are speaking well with each other. And sometimes that means you got to uncover some limiting beliefs like, oh, it's never going to happen, or oh, that's too big of a number, or whatever it might be. Because that is going to directly affect the actions that you take, whether it's conscious or not.
Mhm. And is that what you mean by outside in or inside out? That the outside is unconscious or conscious?
Yeah. So outside in coaching would be I want to make this amount of money per year,
Uh-huh.
and we're going to track backwards basically what
Gotcha.
you just outlined and figure
Okay.
out how to do that.
Mhm.
But the inside out, we have to make sure that aligns with uncovering any limiting beliefs, or making sure that we um, unpack anything that might be holding us back on an internal level.
Okay, thank you. Gotcha. Yeah. I've heard this term before, and maybe you and I have even had that conversation. But I wanted to be sure I was understanding.
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying. It's a good question.
Yeah, of course. So I want to talk a little bit about your programs because they sound really interesting to me. So it's my understanding that there is a program that you have called Root to Rise,
Yeah.
and then 90 days in values alignment, which are two separate tracks of working with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is Root to Rise?
Yeah, so Root to Rise is a 6-month engagement, and it's this idea where we have to build our foundation and build the work that goes underneath whatever it means for you to rise. So like I mentioned at the beginning, helping a woman rise is completely individual to what her path and journey is, but everybody needs to do the foundational work in order to build upon that and bring to life whatever it is your dream or your impact or your vision is for yourself or for your community. And so we spend a lot of time kind of unpacking um, what it is that you want, from the from the impact and purpose lens, and then building on that and making it happen and putting the action plan in place. And then the values alignment is really it's a 90-day program that hones in specifically on who are you, what are your values, and how can you be more in alignment with those.
Mm.
Because a lot of times we get so many messages from media, from friends and family, where all of these things are important, and all of these things, if you're not doing them, then you're missing out.
Mm.
um, and values alignment really takes stock of what is most important to you so that you can align them with your actions and then disregard the rest. So if something isn't important to you, if going out to the bars on a Friday night is not important to you, you feel really good and confident that when you say no, it is for yourself. Maybe you want to stay in watercolor on a Friday night, and that it just totally aligns with your value of creativity, for example.
Mhm.
But if you love connection and you love that social interaction, maybe going out with your friends on a Friday night is best for you. That's a really simple example, but it's the idea that you have a compass that you can check and make decisions off that and create that alignment there.
I love that. So it's 90 days. Is there like a daily practice that differs, or is there like something that you do without giving too much of it away? I'm just curious, like, how do you approach that on a daily basis?
Yeah, so it's I meet with clients biweekly, so once every 2 weeks, and we create action plans at the end of every session. And so, if somebody has determined at the end of session two, I have these 3 or 4 values, then we create that action plan and the ways to integrate that work into their life. Because it's all well and good to say, "Oh yeah, these are my values," but unless you're actually living them, it's not that helpful. So we need that time for integration. And going back to the client is resourceful and creative and knows what they need. If they need a daily practice, then yes, we co-create that together and we figure out what it is that you need on a daily basis. Um, where others need a weekly, maybe it's a combination. It really depends on the client, but we do have to do a lot of exploring before we can go into action mode,
Mhm.
and put it into our calendars and schedule.
Yeah, that's so key. I think we often, especially in our culture, jump to the okay, well, you want this, well, you got to go do that. Action mode right away. Let's go do without understanding really the motive or the unconscious drivers within. So I think that's so valuable and helpful. I love that.
Yeah, especially in our instant gratification society, we're like, come on.
Yeah.
But the exploration is really, it's really where the power is and the magic is.
Yeah, for sure. That's where the juice is. And I find that it's so validating when I do exploration work. It's that stuff lights me up more than any actual action. Do you know what I mean? That stuff is like, oh, I feel seen or valued or heard, even if it's just by myself. Like it's my own inner kid that I've been ignoring, and we're like, okay, well, you really need to go to sleep early because that's how you feel best. Your circadian rhythms, you've always been a morning person, and you're not in alignment with that right now, and it's going to make you cranky. So So go to bed
Yes.
early and get up early.
I'm exactly the same way. And yeah, the exploration, it's like knowing yourself a little bit better. It's really exhilarating when you're like, oh, I get why this happened or why I felt this way. Instead of kind of having things happen to you and reacting to them,
Mhm.
it's more, it creates that response mechanism and curiosity instead of, yeah, things just happening to you. So it's definitely powerful.
Totally. Well, I want to talk to you about your yoga practice because I know that you are a yoga practitioner and you are certified to teach. And with the, the state of the world right now, I'm wondering what that's looking like for you. Your yoga practice, and are you teaching?
Yeah, good question. So I do have a daily yoga practice, and I've started to lean on Peloton a little bit for just it's so powerful to learn from other teachers. You kind of have this idea in your head when it's like, oh, when you know how to teach, you shouldn't have to lean on anybody else, and that's not the case at all. It actually improves your own practice if you're always looking to others to inform your own practice. So I do have a daily practice. I tend to like to practice either first thing in the morning or in the afternoon, when I've been sitting at the computer for several hours. So
Mm.
um, I do that. And Dennis Morton is my favorite on Peloton. If anybody's a Peloton user, he has a very calming voice that I love. And then teaching wise, I do teach so I do have another corporate job, and I teach virtually to employees that are interested in that. And it's been going really well. I think that people want that connection and that movement, and sometimes they like a familiar person instead of somebody on an app, and other folks don't really care. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a very needed practice. I think that I have certain rituals that I do every day, and they just help me to be a good human, a good coach, and then also to um, kind of work through this pandemic time, and give me the core nutrients that I need. That's a term. Core nutrients is a term by Tara Sophia Moore. She's another fabulous coach. But it's the core nutrients that are needed to kind of live a good life in this trying time right now.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned daily rituals. Do you mind sharing some of your daily rituals?
Yeah. So I'm looking at my journal. So I have a notepad that I carry with me everywhere. It's my journal, and just I use it for morning stream of consciousness journaling. So
Mhm.
there are several contemplative practices that are helpful for us, and it just depends on what resonates with you. So for me, that is journal writing in the morning. I also do meditation through the Waking Up app. That's the one by Sam Harris.
Ah,
um,
yes.
yeah, he also has a very soothing sleepy voice, which
Mm.
just makes it great. So I do those two in the morning. I also go on a walk in the morning. I think fresh air in the morning is just so rejuvenating.
Mhm.
um, I also have a very strict phone routine. So I charge my phone in a totally different room from where I sleep, and I don't touch my phone until an hour after I've gotten up and started my day. And I do the same in the evening. So I'll shut it off and turn it on to charge about an hour before I go to bed. And I
Mhm.
think having that um, buffer is just so good for mental space. You know, the constant notifications and all of that is um, there's so much data and science behind why that's not good for our brains. And so I'm pretty strict about my phone routine in that sense. And then what else? I also do, have you heard of the artist's way?
Yes, I have.
Yes. So I do take myself on artist dates. And for anyone not familiar, it's basically 2 hours dedicated to yourself, to go play, go have fun, go be creative, do what your inner child might want to do. Um, Go tinker or make something, and it doesn't have to be good or perfect. It's just allowing you that space to explore.
Mm.
So I like to do that weekly as well. Um, yeah,
I love
I think
that.
those are my rituals.
Those are great, Erica. I might type those up and share them as kind of tips to offer to people that are looking to add ritual or daily routine into their life, if
Yeah,
that's okay with you.
absolutely.
The Artist's Way, I have that book, and gosh, it's been over a decade since I've cracked it, but I love this idea of being with your child and
Yeah,
your inner child and taking yourself on play dates and allowing that outside of having to be an adult and show up in a a quote unquote rational way or logical way, and just letting yourself be free to create and experience that that inner joy, that inner creativity that comes from childhood. What a cool practice. And you
it's so fun. And
yeah.
I will say my husband's actually excellent at it as well. He initiated building a very extensive blanket fort in our den, and we had it up for so long, and it was just so fun to go hang out in there, and it was silly and fun, and it was not a very adult-like thing to do, but it was a really lovely aspect, throughout the winter of this last season.
Yes. Oh, I love that. How cool. Oh my gosh. My sister and I used to build forts every day. Yeah, that's a great idea. If you
Yeah,
have basement space, just do it. And
absolutely.
stream of consciousness writing in the morning, that's a ritual that I love to do. There's so many different ways to do it. I'm wondering uh so have you heard of morning pages?
Yes, and that's also from the Artist's Way, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. It is. Okay, that's why I was connecting those two dots. And there's another practice that's very similar to that that I've recently started to do. It's from a book called The Cleanse, and
Mm.
the author is Dr. Oh, I feel like I'm going to butcher his name. Sadiq Habib Sadehi. And so it's similar to morning pages in that you write stream of consciousness. So for anyone that's not familiar with that, you're just writing. The recommendation usually is, unlined paper, let it be free flowing. Don't edit yourself, even if you're just writing blah, 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 or gibberish or letters that don't make any sense. You just let it flow. And then, so the clarity cleanse takes it one step further. You set a timer for 12 minutes. And I can't remember, the Artist Way might have you do it timed too, but specifically 12 minutes. And then after the 12 minutes is up, you burn the pages.
Ooh.
And I'm telling you, it's so cathartic because I don't know, oftentimes as a writer myself, I will get a little bit stuck in my head in that I'll edit it because I always get into this mindset of like, well, who's going to read this? Is it going to be good enough? Is it going to hurt someone? And so burning it afterwards, I feel like allows me the freedom to write without a care in the world. And also helps me practice um, aparigraha, which is a Sanskrit term for non-grasping, right? Letting go and
Mhm.
not being attached to this written thing that I've created because I think that I need to remember something or create something out of it, or it's going to be my next memoir. And the idea is to just purge that emotion. And once you get that emotion on the page, the burning process of it ignites it and offers it up into the universe. This is the idea, so that you release that emotion from being stored in your body, offer it up and let it go and let it move through you.
Mm,
So that would be my only addition to
yes.
morning pages, which is
What a powerful practice. And that reminds me, so there's a couple things that might stop people from trying out journaling or trying out stream of consciousness writing. And it's exactly that what you said, where it's like, oh, got to make sure, some people are like, oh, I need to make sure that it's spelled right, it's grammatically accurate. They'll go back and edit it. And the idea behind stream of consciousness is that it doesn't even matter if it makes sense. And if you get stuck, if you're done with a thought, you can just keep writing that last word over and over, and then something else is going to pop up and you can start writing again. It's a very, it down regulates your nervous system, the act of writing. And so there's just a lot of power to it, in the act of writing. In the burning the pages, it reminds me of a practice. It's called unsent letters.
Mm.
And it's a similar, well, it's not similar in the stream of consciousness, but it's the idea of addressing a letter to somebody who you need to say something to, whether it's forgiving them for something or you're angry about something, and just writing a letter to them and saying everything that you need to say to that person. And then you don't send it. And some people will like to burn it in the same vein, to like release it out into the universe or throw it away or shred it. But burning it is very, there's a lot of power to that.
Yeah, and just even being able to watch it, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, think about like how soothing it is to sit in front of a fire and stare at the flames and to be able to watch that go up in smoke and just letting it go. It's really a very tangible way to let something go. Uh,
Hmm.
um, so I want to be sorry, I'm like wiggling around. I want to be mindful of our time, but I have a couple of more questions for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So the the first of the two is, what are some words of wisdom that you live by? Like if it's a personal motto or a mantra, do you have anything that comes to mind?
One that I heard a couple years ago that stuck with me is, it's kind of funny. It's just stop shoulding all over yourself.
Yes.
And I think I learned it in a group coaching cohort, something like that. And it's always stuck with me because, especially with women, we find, there's a lot of should language that we employ where it's like, oh, I should be a better mom. I should do this. I should do that. And language is powerful. We, going back to the manifesting topic, it's like the things that we say, they affect our body, they affect our brain. And so just removing language where you're kind of down on yourself by something as simple as removing should from your language is really powerful. So I like that one, as well as compare and despair. I think the idea of comparison really, it just, in the same way that it puts a downer on us, we don't need it. And it's the opposite of gratitude, and gratitude can just, make such a difference. So compare and despair, I like to think about that, especially when it comes to the Instagram world where you're just always like, oh, they're on vacation and I'm not. Um, so changing it to gratitude is better in my view.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, should on yourself. I worked also in the corporate work world. You, Eric, and I have a similar background,
Yeah.
corporate work world wise. And one of my coworkers taught me that. She would always say, "Don't should on yourself, Tessa." And I that's always stuck with me too. So I love that you bring that up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. What are you most looking forward to right now?
I have an easy one for that. It's the yoga retreat in May.
Oh, me too, right? Yes. We, Erica and I, well, a group of us are going. Yes, Erica and I are just going. A group of us are going on retreat in May to Mexico. It's this amazing. You haven't been there yet, have you,
I've
Erica?
never been to Mexico, so
Oh,
this is
really?
a big first for me. I'm so excited.
I feel so honored that you're coming with us. I'm very excited for you too.
Hmm.
We are going to a very remote resort called Chinalani that is only accessible by a boat. So you fly into the airport, you get on a boat, and you go to this magical little resort. And I kid you not, it reminds me of the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse.
Oh,
Have you looked at pictures yet?
I have. I have. And now that you've said that, I'm like, yes, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And everything is open to the ocean. So our sleeping rooms, everything has 3 walls. And it's safe, right? Like everything is safe, but everything is facing the ocean. So sleeping rooms, eating area, our yoga practice space. It's just, I can't wait. I'm so excited for you and for
Ugh,
me.
I am too. I'm It's just so good to be able to um get away from all the shoulds of daily life, right?
Yeah, yeah. Have
Get
you
away
been
from
on
the
retreat before?
I have. I've been on 2 retreats
Mhm.
and they're just magical. One in Costa Rica and one to the Oregon coast. And anything with water, it's very healing and just wonderful.
Yeah. What would you Okay, I guess that wasn't my last question, but I do have a question about yoga retreat for the person that's never tried it and not sure what to expect or is a little bit, kind of like, is it worth it? Because they're a lot of money, like it's an investment.
Hmm.
What would you say to that person?
I need to take my coaching hat off so that I'm not like asking a question back. I would say that the value is in excess of any cost because um there's something magical about the unplugging and being away from the day-to-day um to-do lists and the tasks and the busyness that we're so accustomed to, that it's like a breath of fresh air, and you make of it what you want. I will say that if you are open to the experience, it's going to be so much more wonderful than being closed-minded about it. Though there's I mean, just the fact of people cooking food, you don't have to clean, you don't have to prep anything, like, everything is given to you, and you get the opportunity to just be, and we don't get that opportunity very often, and it helps when you're on retreat with wonderful humans,
Mhm.
which typically anyone who goes on retreat, they're usually wonderful.
Amen, sister. Uh, all right, Erica. Well, I so appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your practices and all the cool things that you're doing with us. If anyone wants to follow up and reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, so my website is ericagiselle.com. My email is connect@ericagiselle.com. So any way you can get a hold of me. I am launching my Heart Talk project, which is a gifted coaching experience. So if you're like, what is this coaching thing? I don't think I understand it. The best way to experience that is to try it on. And so I'm gifting 15 conversations in April, 90 minutes each, and the 90 minutes it's lengthy on purpose. It's really a deep dive, and so if that's something you're interested in, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm sure Tessa can help put the appropriate links in the appropriate distribution channels for that.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. The Heart Talk project that was inspired by a book by Cleo Wade, who's a poet, correct?
Yes,
It is.
I love this book so much. It's poems, it's mantras, it's steps for self-care. It's just all good stuff.
Mhm. Okay. And so you're giving away 15 free sessions,
Hmm.
and I will definitely link those in the show notes. And it begins April, remind me of the dates.
April 5th to April 25th. So it's a 3-week long project. And it's such a gift to be able to chat with people all over the world and offer this gift to people who are curious and want to know more.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Erica. So nice
Thank
to have
you.
you.
This was so fun. Appreciate it.